It started on a quiet morning that felt heavier than usual, as if the air itself carried a weight of unspoken tension. The sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the empty streets, and in a modest house on the corner, a man faced a reality he never thought he would confront. His son had made a decision, one that would shake the foundation of their family. He had been asked to leave, asked to step aside, not because of wrongdoing, but because his presence no longer fit into the life his son wanted to build with his wife. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, yet there was no dramatic shouting, no visible anger, just silence and the slow, aching realization that love can sometimes be conditional. The father gathered what little he owned, his hands trembling not from weakness, but from the heartbreak of being rejected by the person he had raised with care and devotion. Before the world could digest the gravity of what had happened, the father stepped outside, the morning air biting at his skin. Every corner of the neighborhood seemed suddenly unfamiliar, every passer by a stranger, and every familiar street an echo of loss. In that moment, he understood the true weight of loneliness, the hollow ache of being cast aside by your own flesh and blood. He had lived a life of simple values, working tirelessly to provide for his family, to instill love and guidance in his children, and yet, here he was, standing at the threshold of uncertainty and shame. Friends and neighbors noticed the change immediately. Whispers followed him like shadows, glances that asked questions he could not answer. He walked with dignity, trying to maintain his composure, but inside, every step carried the sting of rejection. The father had not just lost a home, he had lost the sense of belonging, the core of connection that family provides. The world suddenly felt vast, cold, and unforgiving, and yet, in the midst of despair, there was a glimmer of hope. Somewhere deep within, a voice whispered that perhaps there was a lesson to be learned, a path toward healing that had not yet revealed itself. Friends and family who remained close offered small gestures of comfort, warm tea, quiet conversations, silent presence, but they could not fill the void that now existed in his heart. Each day became a test of resilience, a battle between despair and the stubborn hope that things could somehow be made right. The father wandered the streets, seeking solace in small routines, observing the world around him with a mixture of sorrow and wonder. He noticed how the sun hit the trees differently each morning, how neighbors tended their gardens with care, how children laughed and ran freely, unburdened by the weight of adult decisions. These small moments reminded him that life moved forward, whether he was ready or not, and that perhaps there was room for growth and learning even in the darkest hours. As the days passed, the father struggled not only with his sense of displacement, but with questions that haunted him constantly. Had he failed as a parent? Was it his fault that his son had chosen to prioritize his wife's wishes over his own father? Could he have done something differently, something that would have kept the family united? These questions lingered like ghosts, haunting every moment, making sleep elusive and peace fleeting. And yet, it was within this struggle that the seeds of transformation began to take root. In the quiet of his own thoughts, he found an unexpected clarity. Life's trials often reveal what is most important, and sometimes the lessons we resist are precisely the ones that shape our character. He began attending the local church more faithfully, not out of obligation, but from a desire to understand, to seek guidance, to find comfort in the words of Scripture that spoke of forgiveness, humility, and love beyond measure. Each sermon, each verse, seemed to address the questions that had plagued him. The stories of grace and redemption resonated deeply, reminding him that even when human relationships fail, divine wisdom and compassion remain steadfast. It was during one such quiet morning of prayer that a particular teaching caught his attention. The words of Jesus about loving your enemies, forgiving those who hurt you, and trusting in God's plan even when the path is unclear. These words, simple yet profound, began to shift his perspective, slowly replacing bitterness with understanding. It was in this mindset that the father began to approach his situation differently. Instead of dwelling on anger or resentment, he chose small acts of kindness both to himself and to others. He helped neighbors carry groceries, offered a comforting word to those who struggled, and volunteered at a local soup kitchen. Each act of service, each gesture of compassion, became a balm for his wounded spirit, teaching him that purpose is not always found in familial approval, but in the way one touches the lives of others. Slowly, the father felt a sense of peace returning, a quiet strength emerging from the very depths of his suffering. And yet, life is rarely linear. One evening, while walking home after helping at the community center, he encountered his son unexpectedly. The son's expression was unreadable, a mixture of hesitation and unresolved guilt. For a moment, the world seemed suspended, the weight of the past pressing down on them both. The father, remembering the lessons of grace he had learned, approached not with anger, but with calm acceptance. There was no accusation, no demand for apology, only a willingness to understand and to listen. This encounter became the turning point. The son, confronted with the steadfast love and composure of his father, began to reflect on his actions in a way he had never done before. He saw the pain he had caused, the injustice of prioritizing his own comfort over the well-being of someone who had sacrificed everything for him. He recognized the wisdom in his father's patience, the strength in his humility, and the transformative power of forgiveness. Slowly, walls that had been built over years of misunderstandings and pride began to crumble. At this moment, the story takes a spiritual turn. The father, through his unwavering faith and moral fortitude, had become a living example of the teachings he had embraced. Jesus' lessons about compassion, humility, and second chances were no longer abstract concepts, but tangible forces shaping real lives. The son realized that life is not a series of transactions in which love is earned conditionally, but a journey in which the power of grace can restore relationships even when human errors seem insurmountable. It was in this realization that both father and son began to heal. Reconciliation did not happen instantly or perfectly, but it began with a series of small gestures, a shared meal, honest conversations, and the willingness to acknowledge past mistakes without letting pride dictate the outcome. The father's heart, once burdened with despair, began to feel lighter, and the son, previously blinded by self-interest, began to see the enduring value of respect, love, and family connection. The lessons of patience, kindness, and faith had transformed what could have been a permanent fracture into a story of redemption. At this point, I want to pause and ask you, the viewers, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Soulful Kindness. Every act of engagement helps spread stories that remind us of the power of love and compassion in everyday life. As the story unfolds further, the father continued to serve not only his own family, but the community around him. He became known as a man who had faced deep personal pain, yet chose to respond with empathy and generosity. Neighbors who had witnessed his journey were inspired to reconsider their own relationships, realizing that humility and understanding often accomplish more than anger and resentment ever could. Meanwhile, the son continued to reflect on his actions, now carrying the weight of responsibility alongside the newfound wisdom that family, when nurtured with love and patience, is an unbreakable bond. The most profound lesson came during a quiet evening, months after the initial estrangement. The father found himself sitting alone in the small garden behind his home, praying and meditating on the journey he had undertaken. He realized that the events that once seemed devastating had, in fact, become the catalyst for growth, understanding, and deeper connection. Life had shown him that even the most painful trials carry within them the seeds of transformation, if met with faith, patience, and compassion. The son, now aware of the consequences of his decisions, approached his father not with fear or arrogance, but with sincere humility and an openness to repair what had been broken. Together, they began to rebuild their relationship, not as it had been before, but as something stronger and more resilient. The father had demonstrated the power of unconditional love, patience, and moral courage, while the son had learned the importance of respect, accountability, and the value of listening to the wisdom of those who came before him. Their story became a testament to the power of faith and grace in mending human hearts and restoring bonds, thought irreparably broken. And now, dear viewers, if this story has touched your heart, If it has reminded you of the power of forgiveness, of second chances, and of unwavering kindness, please take a moment to like this video, share it with those you care about, and comment below your thoughts. Your engagement spreads these powerful lessons, inspiring others to embrace patience, compassion, and understanding in their own lives. Comment below with your reflections, your personal experiences, or someone you believe deserves a second chance. Let's fill this space with hope and encouragement for everyone watching. Through hardship, through trials, and through the moments when life seems unbearably heavy, we are reminded that love, faith, and understanding are forces stronger than pride, fear, or anger. And in that realization, a life that once seemed broken can be made whole again, not by chance, but by the deliberate choice to act with compassion, courage, and a heart open to grace. The lesson endures. Even when we are pushed aside, even when we are hurt by those we love, the path of kindness, patience, and faith can lead us to reconciliation, healing, and a deeper, more enduring connection than we ever imagined possible.